Hello, please listen to a story about the subtle yet strict education of a father, the deep regret of a son, and a lesson he would never forget for the rest of his life. Titled, My Father, before the story begins. Imagine this: a quiet evening on a long, dusty road in the countryside. The sky is dark, the wind is cold, and a tired man is walking alone. Behind him, a car moves slowly. Inside the car sits a young boy, his heart full of regret. That boy knows he has made a mistake, one small lie. But that lie is about to teach him a lesson that will stay with him forever. Sometimes, the most powerful lessons in life do not come from anger or punishment. Sometimes they come from silence, patience, and love. This is the story of a father and his son. Many years ago, when I was 16 years old, I lived with my parents in a small town near the mountains in southern Europe. Our town was quiet and peaceful. Narrow streets ran between white houses, and olive trees grew on the hills around us. My father's name was Antonio. He was a calm and thoughtful man. He did not speak loudly, and he rarely showed anger, but when he spoke, his words were always clear and meaningful. My name was Daniel. At that time, I had just learned how to drive a car. For a 16-year-old boy, driving felt like freedom. It made me feel older and more important. Every time my father let me sit behind the steering wheel, I felt proud. One morning, my father came into the kitchen while I was eating breakfast. "Daniel," he said gently, "I need to go to a village called Mijus today. It is about 18 miles away. Could you drive me there?" My eyes immediately lit up. "Yes, father," I said quickly. He continued speaking calmly. "After you drop me off in the village, please take the car to a garage nearby. The mechanic needs to check the engine, then come back to pick me up at 4 o'clock this afternoon." To me, this sounded like the perfect day. Not only could I drive the car, but I would also have several hours alone in the village. I imagined walking around, exploring the streets, and enjoying the feeling of independence. "I will be there at 4, father," I promised confidently. Soon we were on the road. The morning sun was bright, and the air was cool and fresh. The road curved through green hills and olive trees. I drove carefully because my father was sitting beside me, watching quietly. After about 30 minutes, we arrived in the village of Mijus. It was a beautiful little village with narrow streets, stone houses, and small shops. People walked slowly through the square, greeting each other like old friends. I stopped the car near the center of the village. My father opened the door and stepped out. "I will meet you here at 4 o'clock, he said. "Don't worry," I replied. "I will be on time." He smiled gently and walked away. I then drove the car to the garage just a few streets away. The mechanic greeted me warmly. "The car will be ready later this afternoon," he said. I suddenly realized I had several hours with nothing to do. As I walked through the village, I noticed a small cinema across the street. A colorful poster hung outside the door. A new adventure movie was playing. I had always loved movies, and the idea of sitting in a warm cinema sounded wonderful. I have plenty of time, I told myself. So, I bought a ticket and went inside. The cinema was dark and quiet. The movie was exciting. There were brave heroes, dangerous adventures, and beautiful music. I became completely absorbed in the story. Time passed quickly. At one moment in the movie, something exciting happened, and everyone in the theater leaned forward in their seats. That was when I suddenly thought about the time. I quickly looked at my watch. My heart almost stopped. It was 6 o'clock for a few seconds. I sat there in shock. Then panic rushed through my mind. My father. I whispered. He had been waiting for 2 hours. I ran out of the cinema and hurried to the garage. The mechanic had already finished working on the car. I quickly paid him and jumped into the driver's seat as I drove toward the meeting place. My mind began racing with fear. My father trusted me. He had asked me to return at 4. Now it was already 6. I imagined the look of disappointment on his face. Suddenly, a dangerous thought came into my mind. Maybe I could tell him something else. Maybe I could say the mechanic needed more time. Maybe I could say the engine had a problem. Yes. That sounded reasonable. The lie formed quickly in my mind. By the time I reached the village square, I had already prepared my story. I saw my father standing quietly on a corner. He was not sitting. He was not angry. He was simply waiting when he saw the car arrive. He walked toward me calmly. "I'm sorry. I'm late." "Father," I said quickly. The car needed extra repairs. The mechanic took longer than expected. My father looked at me silently. I will never forget the look in his eyes. There was no anger, but there was deep disappointment. "Daniel," he said slowly, "I am very disappointed that you felt you had to lie to me." My heart jumped. "What do you mean?" I said nervously. "It's true." He looked at me again, quietly. "When you did not arrive at 4, he said calmly. "I called the garage to ask if there was a problem. My chest tightened. They told me," he continued, "that you had not yet come to pick up the car." In that moment, a heavy wave of guilt filled my heart. My lie had been discovered. I could not hide it anymore. "I'm sorry, Father," I said softly. "I went to see a movie. I lost track of time." My father remained silent for a long moment. Then he sighed deeply. "I am very angry," he said slowly. I lowered my head. But then he said something I did not expect. "I am not angry at you, Daniel. I am angry at myself." I looked up in surprise. "I must have failed as a father," he continued quietly, "after all these years. You still feel that you must lie to me." His voice was calm, but his words hurt more than any punishment. "It is heartbreaking," he said, "to think that my own son cannot tell me the truth." I felt terrible. I wished I could go back in time and change what I had done, but it was too late. Then my father did something that shocked me. "I will walk home," he said. My eyes widened. "What?" I asked. "I need time to think," he said quietly. "I will walk and think about what I have done wrong as a father." "But father," I cried, "it's 18 miles from here to home, and it's getting dark." He closed the car door gently. "I will walk," he repeated. Then he began walking down the road. The evening sky was already turning dark. The wind was growing colder. I sat in the car, frozen with guilt. Then I slowly drove behind him. "Father, please," I called out through the window. "Please, get into the car." But he kept walking. "Father." "I'm sorry," I begged. Still, he walked forward in silence. The road stretched long and empty before us. Dust rose under his tired steps. The wind moved through the trees. For mile after mile, my father walked, and I drove slowly behind him. Sometimes I begged him to forgive me. Sometimes I promised I would never lie again. But he continued walking. Quiet and thoughtful, the night grew darker. My father's steps became slower. I could see that he was tired, but he did not stop. At that moment, I understood something very important. My father was not punishing me with anger. He was teaching me something deeper. He wanted me to see the pain that a lie could cause. He wanted me to understand the value of truth. Finally, many hours later, we reached home. My father stopped walking. He turned toward me for the first time that night. He spoke again. "Daniel," he said gently, "I hope tonight you have learned something important." I nodded, my eyes full of tears. "Yes, Father," I whispered, and I truly had learned something. From that day forward, I never lied to my father again. Even now, many years later, I still remember that long, dark road. I remember the wind. I remember the sound of my father's footsteps. And I remember the silent lesson that changed my life forever. Thank you for watching and listening to the deeply meaningful story about the profound lesson of honesty taught by a strict yet wise father in the story, My Father. We hope you enjoy listening while improving your English listening and speaking skills. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share to support our channel. Goodbye, and see you again soon in our next videos.